Alright, today we'll be just installing our frame sliders. I already have installed, but I'll redo it just to show you guys. What you'll need is the frame slider kit, your torque wrench that goes up to 55 foot-pounds, magnetic retrieving tool, 8mm socket, a 8mm hex socket, a 14mm socket, a hex key or 4mm hex socket, and a 5mm hex socket, flathead screwdriver, and a tray, magnetic or non-magnetic, just to keep all the bolts and screws in. It's a pretty easy process. Just a couple pop tabs that get in the way here and there, but overall pretty easy. We'll begin with removing this bottom trim, and then we'll work our way back up, removing the passenger seat to get to the driver's seat. And we'll be remove this trim, and then we'll remove the fairing. Okay, let's begin. Okay, like I said, first we're going to remove our bottom trim. It's going to have two 4mm hex bolts, and then a 5mm hex bolt here. In the front, there's a pop tab. This just has the tabs right here. Just kind of play with it a bit. Should be easy, just don't force it. Alright, now we're going to take off our passenger seat just to get to the driver's seat. Let's pull this loop here, and then pull up on the seat. That's how you get the seat off. Alright, now we're going to get the top trim off. This has the shortest 4mm hex bolt, as well as the longest 4mm hex bolt. And then it has 4 pop-in tabs. Pull straight out. Keep in mind this top piece here has a tab that you slide in, so don't pull straight out on top here, just kind of slide it out. Alright, now we can actually get to the fairing. Keep in mind both left and right side pretty similar. The only difference here is on the left side you have these fuse boxes that you need to pull out. They're just attached to the fairing tabs. We'll need two 4mm head bolts right here, a pop tab, small pop tab right here, 4mm hex bolt, another 4mm hex bolt under the headlight, 4 small pop tabs, which we'll get to in a bit, and then another 4mm hex bolt right here. Depending on how new your bike is, if you're in it, it has grime or dirt in it, you could probably pop these easy if they're clean. This top one especially. So we're going to start pulling the fairing out from the back to the front. That way we have room to actually reach in, as well as removing the fuse boxes here. Thing we need to take off is the side light. What I like to do is just use a flathead to push in, makes it easier. That just slides right out. Alright, now I already have mine installed, but from OEM you'll have a 14mm head bolt. What you'll need is at least a 3-inch extension and a 14mm socket for the bolt. It is torqued down pretty hard, so just make sure your bike is sturdy on the ground. That way when you put force on it, it's not going to tip it over. And also I recommend only doing one side at a time because it is an engine bolt. You don't want to risk misaligning the bolt and then having to prop up the engine again. So take the bolt out, and this is why I say you might need a magnetic retriever tool, because once you catch the spacer, the bolt probably won't slide out really nicely, so this will make it easier to slide it out. Then assemble your frame slider. Like I said, the longest spacer goes in the left side with the longest bolt that they provide. And then make sure you also put back the OEM spacer that sits between the frame and the engine. And then if you're using the Shogun, they have the bolt that they bring is a 8mm hex bolt. Torque that down. Right now, Kawasaki doesn't have a 400 service manual, so I just reference the 300, and their frame bolts are 51 foot-pounds. When you torque it down, it will move it, so just keep an eye. I mean, you're gonna have to use a lot of counter force to torque that down. So, and to align it, all you have to do is put the fairing back by hand. Doesn't have to be too perfect. And I'll hold it back while it's still loose. Just adjust to where you want the frame to sit, the frame slider to sit. Just be ready for this to still move. Before you put the cap, of course, you need to put another 8mm hex bolt, torque that down to 32 foot-pounds. And then you can put the caps back on, and the fairing and the trim pieces back on, and you're all set. And then do the same thing on the right side. Right side doesn't have the fuse boxes that you have to slide off, and it uses the shorter spacers, and it does not have a OEM spacer between the engine and the frame. It'll be a little bit easier on the right side. All right, let's reassemble.